Alrighty everyone, welcome back. It is now December 10th of 2024, and like I've said this before in the past, and I'll say it again, whenever we address any kind of issue going on with George Clooney at this point, you might as well call it Clooney Tunes, because it's so out of this world crazy that you really just can't really understand exactly what's going on and how this truly is actually happening in 2024. Now, we have people out there like George Clooney who really just can't seem to accept the fact that nobody is interested in this guy anymore. Nobody wants to be associated with him. We have a lot of those that were once on his side that are turning their back against him now, and those like Bill Maher, for example, do not want him on his show, even though George Clooney had tried to. But to top things off here, we know that there's a lot of things going on with George Clooney and the current status of his career as we speak within the film industry. This is Mike Zero. Subscribe if you're new and like this video to see future updates. You can also follow me at Mike01. I thank you all so very much for the great and kind support. So one thing about George Clooney is that we know that he's very egotistically driven, he's very self-absorbed, he will never accept any kind of a loss, and that's where you begin to realize that this is how a lot of these A-list stars or these A-list actors really do act when it comes to their true selves, right? And at the end of the day, we know that the general public, they were actually, basically mocked by George Clooney weeks ago. You guys may recall we talked about this, about how he did say and point the finger, you can't trust your neighbors or those within your normal social circle. You gotta look up to celebrities and those that have to associate with rules and all this nonsense. But moving onwards from all of that, alright, George Clooney recently had yet another meltdown. Now, with the entire foundation of Hollywood and the media now in shambles and falling apart every single day, one monumental development that is now active involves more to do with George Clooney in recent days, after his downfall within the film industry, after forcing his political opinion onto the general public that backfired completely. Now, a crucial update to this whole situation now involves how Clooney is reportedly furious and held multiple argumentative conversations with Warner Brothers after getting fired from the studio for the expansion of the Ocean's films and losing out on a multi-million-dollar deal. We'll get to that in just a second. Now, that was reportedly going to pay him, get this, nearly $100 million altogether. Clooney was, of course, fired by WB CEO David Zaslav, and the studio executives decided to remove him from a massive deal that was going to focus on 4 Ocean's movies. Ocean's 14 alone was going to pay $20 to $25 million, along with a sequel and a potential spin-off film added into the mix, paying both $30 million each, and one other film that Clooney was going to take part in, separate from the Ocean's franchise, was planned to pay out an estimated $15 million. Now, this, of course, $100 million contract deal is now officially over, and already Clooney is reportedly not taking it well at all, since he is now pressing to sue Warner Brothers CEO David Zaslav and the studio executives for making that ultimate call. Now, in addition to all of this, Clooney also recently held a very heated remote meeting that took place that rattled throughout the entire studio at WB, where Clooney is now putting full blame on David Zaslav for engaging in false promises and firing him for having a political opinion. Now guys, before I get to the next part about this, about those false promises that George Clooney is claiming, this is all rooted to the fact that basically Zaslav was like, if you make a cameo in the movie The Flash, we will grant you this $100 million deal for the expansion of the Ocean's franchise. And after his political opinion was pressed onto the public, and even, of course, engaging in that politically driven commercial that did not agree with over half the country, really a lot of things backfired on George Clooney, and not in a very good way at all. In fact, it backfired in a way that we would have never expected. Now, this $100 million deal, as it turns out, is now going to be used, get this, toward James Gunn and his DC Universe films instead, by hiring other A-list stars to appear either as popular superheroes or even some supporting actors / characters. This is where the arguments escalated, where Clooney blamed Zaslav for tossing his $100 million contract deal into films that are not labeled as true cinema, as he put it, and is demanding that Zaslav reverse his actions effective immediately, or he is willing to sue not just him, but all of Warner Brothers before the end of this year. Now, these are the types of shaky conversations that have been taking place the past few days, and why David has been quiet more than usual to the public eye and to his shareholders. This is all happening in a similar pattern to what happened to Robert De Niro, where he too is blaming WB for firing him for having a political opinion, as he put it. Now, the CEO and studio execs are in a phase of weeding out both A-list stars that engage in a toxic political rhetoric onto the public that will lose customers in the long run, and instead want to hire actors who remain quiet from their political opinions on social media and through interviews, etc., etc. Clooney is already reportedly panicking since other studios are following suit after WB decided to axe Clooney, and is creating a blacklist trend for George throughout all of Hollywood. And though George doesn't need the money, seemingly this is more or less ego-driven when it comes to him, having a very big problem with losing out on that $100 million contract deal. Now, this is interesting about this, the fact that you have people out there like Clooney that really can't seem to register the facts, that nobody wants to be told by an actor how to think and how to, set your priorities straight within your own life, right? We know that he basically pressed his opinions on the general public, like, you have to look up to celebrities, you have to look up to people like us, and not people within your social circle, not your neighbor, and not anybody like that. That, of course, and those comments that he pressed on the public really backfired, and let alone, like I said before, the politically driven commercial where he motivated people to lie to either their wife or their husband. That was a very big deal breaker for the actor that really backfired on him, and that's why WB took a stand back almost immediately and said, yeah, that really crossed the line, we can't deal with something like that. And that's why they're using this money, and I think it's a very good move, to be honest. They're taking that $100 million that they were going to pay Clooney, and they are tossing it. They are shifting it to James Gunn's DC universe. Now, whether that's going to be applied to the budget of, new upcoming movies, or movies that are going to be more or less in the distant future, we'll have to wait and see, but those are officially being added to the DC universe films. And whether or not you like James Gunn, that's fine and all, you have your own comments about that. Regardless, I think it's a very good move on WB's end, and it's a proper investment. So overall, the Oceans franchise, I don't even know why they were even trying to expand this thing like it's Fast and Furious or something, or Mission Impossible. Oceans died with Oceans 13, and especially within Oceans 8, it was even established that his character, George Clooney's character, Danny Ocean, actually died in the actual, continuity. And so they wanted to reverse that. They wanted to retcon that, quote-unquote, undo that fact in Oceans 8 by creating a twist in Oceans 14, a sequel most likely called Oceans 15, and a spin-off film. And all of that is now toast, right? So George Clooney, this is exactly what happened to him after all of the comments that he made, and why he is pressing a lot of this negativity now on David Zaslav, and really just can't seem to accept the facts that he lost out on $100 million and lost out on these Oceans movies. But overall, I would like to hear what everyone has to say about all of this below in the comments, and if you guys did enjoy the content for today, make sure to drop a thumbs up on this video to support the channel, and I will catch you guys later.